always things happening behind the scenes. We do our best to know what's happening behind the scenes. That's why the Most High Yahweh gave us Rakakadash to know what's going on behind the scenes, that he would tell his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, double honor, his ales and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teachers of truth and sincerity, and shout out to Yakims out there 4 quarters of the earth, proclaim his truth. Brak of the Yahweh, Brak of the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatem. So they are creating stages all around the world to usher in the new world order, to where they're going to implant everyone with a micro C hip to control their every move. You know, pretty much so, having total control. You know, because you already know you can't do shit without a bank account. You can't really do shit without real ID, right? You know, although there are ways to get around the real ID, but you know, you can't enter airports, etc., right? But that's okay. You know, back in the days when we lived, there was no such thing as airplanes, and you know, everything was either horseback or by donkey, right? So therefore, you know, we know how to get around. But you know, you kind of do need a car, but they're making it to where you have to have a bank account for everything, and you have to have biometrics, real ID, etc. Well, there's a new Plandemic, right? They've been trying to come up with a new Plandemic, you know, as if the oil crisis ain't enough. Well, they got another one. I mean, they may push this. I remember the monkey butt. They try to push monkey butt, you know, where fags fuck each other up the ass, and they catch monkey butt. Remember, they tried to come up with a monkey butt vaccine to try to push that on the world, but you know, a lot of people weren't falling for monkey butt, you know, so they got to come up with something, right? You know, because the World Health Organization, you know, has got to come up with something as well. And so this could be it, or it may not be anything. We've heard about other types of viruses. They're always inventing some sort of new scenario.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and you may have heard the news of 3 dead on a cruise line over so-called Hantavirus.
Do they have
now, this
Tom
is
Hanks
I have
virus?
been researching for many, many, many years.
Was this caused by Tom Hanks?
It reminded me of a few things, and I haven't seen anyone put this together yet, but this is the news. A virus outbreak on a cruise ship leaves 3 people dead, and 5 more suspected cases. The cause is being investigated, with 1 case of Hantavirus confirmed. So this is the news today. It's being beamed everywhere, but no one really is talking about how far back the paranoia goes and how Hantavirus gets around, allegedly. I mean, this is an article from 2012. CDC pushing yet more disease paranoia over Hantavirus pandemic from mouse droppings. That's from Natural News, our good friends over there. And it just happens that they are developing mRNA vaccines for this.
Already in motion.
We know that it could be aerosolized by the U.S. military. Now, what is it? Is it a disease agent? You know how I feel about viruses, my friends. However, I do think that they can spray poisons that can mimic certain things under the tests, as, of course, it's been shown many times over that you cannot really tell between so-called COVID and Hantavirus. This will be a fun one, my friends. We're going to get into this and more. I think they are pushing the latest fear, the latest pandemic propaganda. Before we get into it, I urge people to check those links below.
I guess nobody really believed in the Mu or the Delta
your source for neutral online.
the Omega virus anymore.
Heard this news
Omega
today,
variant.
Amazing stuff. Unmatched potency for the full 1-0. Now let's get into this. So, my friends, we heard this news today of this massive virus outbreak on this cruise line. And tragically, 3 people have died.
It's on the killing spree again.
There's something strange about this. For something that could be so aerosolized and comes from aerosolized...
Move, bitch! You got coronavirus.
You know, the testing ground of...
Or Hantavirus.
A cruise ship, is quite interesting, and the concept is that possibly...
Oh, won't you take me on a sea cruise?
Now, it says here on a BBC, 3 dead in suspected virus outbreak on Atlantic cruise ship. Deadly virus on cruise ship MV Hondius, as 3 die, and Brit fights for his life. A 69-year-old British man was evacuated to Johannesburg. Now, again, all very tragic stuff, for sure. But there's something strange about this, because these warnings have been coming up for quite some time. Here's a May 2nd article.
Something strange in the neighborhood.
Warning from Saskatchewan Health Authority. This one also was Saskatchewan residents reminded to take precautions for Hantavirus. This is from April 29th. And we're seeing this buildup of fear surrounding Hantavirus. It appears to be happening in real time, my friends, going back to just, you know, a few weeks ago. And not just that, we have this fear-mongering that was being pushed by the CDC back in 2012. CDC pushing get more disease paranoia over hantavirus pandemic from mouse droppings. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control at the time and Prevention at the time they were warning that as many as 10,000 people who stayed in tent cabins in Yosemite National Park over the summer could be at risk for contracting deadly rodent-borne hantavirus, something that they claim kills a large percentage. We're talking, they say, as much as 30% fatality rate. Now, this also, from May 3rd, it says Taiwan reports second hantavirus case of 2026. So there's fear coming out of Taiwan as well, which is typical, as it is one of the major target countries in the world for being taken over. Obviously, a part of the agenda for the reset is that shift for China to be able to take over Taiwan as part of their technocratic order. Anyway, it's interesting, to say the least, that Moderna and Korea University are co-developing a hantavirus vaccine. This is from 2024, July 5th of 2024. Moderna said Friday that it has entered into full-scale collaboration with the Vaccine Innovation Center at Korea University College of Medicine to develop an mRNA, a messenger ribonucleic acid-based hantavirus.
Havid-19.
Vaccine. Now we know what mRNA does. And, of course, it's always interesting, seeing the correlation here. It's not alone. We see this in Texas as well, in a comprehensive investigation of glycoprotein-based nucleic acid vaccines for Hantavirus, and we see the push for mRNA vaccines for many of these so-called illnesses. Again, I truly believe, like, it's not disease warfare. I believe there's a chemical warfare that affects people dramatically, and, you know, through the use of course, heavy metals as well. I remember, okay, so just for some reflection here, July of 2020, the CDC banned U.S. cruises through September, citing ongoing coronavirus outbreak on ships. One of the main things, and I remember I was living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico at the time, just left there recently, 6 years there, and I remember at the time seeing a couple cruise ships just sitting in the bay for months on end with people stuck on it. Absolutely horrific. People weren't getting so-called COVID. SARS-CoV-2 has never been isolated from a single human being ever. It's only been cultured in monkey kidney cells and compared to a computer simulation. They threw a bunch of antibiotics at a petri dish and then used polymerase chain reaction tests, PCR tests, which do not test for specific illnesses, to test for it. Which I'm going to mention more of in a moment, because there seem to be some issues with that going back as far as 2020 with hantavirus and so-called COVID. So I'm not one to then believe that, oh, suddenly, because I believe we're dealing with exosomes in most cases here. I don't believe that viruses, as they say they exist, actually exist. And I've gone into this many times with people like Dr. Andrew Kaufman and Dr. David Raznick, who is one of the top scientists in the world on virology. So I am prone to believe what they say based on the studies that they've done and how much trouble they've gotten in for daring to talk about these issues. However, again, this new virus outbreak on a cruise, it mimics what we've seen before. And, you know, that, and obviously the mix of bird flu and norovirus and
monkey butt.
My goodness, there's so many different illnesses that we've been told to think about over the last few years out of fear. But they're always leading us up into the next system of control, as they want to spray mRNA on the food supply, as they give us mRNA meat and mRNA vegetables and fruits, as we see the aerosolized mRNA sprays that they're putting out. I mean, the list goes on. I really want to get into some of the things I found on this hantavirus thing, though, because honestly, I want to give people the context, but I'm giddy to get into this because I don't think anyone else has put these things together. Hantavirus shares many symptoms with COVID-19, they claim, and one of the issues is a lot of people who are getting tested for COVID-19 and were told they had COVID-19 also allegedly actually had hantavirus, and it was misdiagnosed as COVID-19 because they have the same symptoms. I mean, this is the epitome of how they would bring in the next so-called pandemic. In fact, President Trump has said himself that he looks forward, that's a weird thing to say, looks forward to committing to Operation Warp Speed 2.0. He's been meeting with Bill Gates and Albert Bourla of Pfizer. Of course, we have also RFK Jr., who was confirmed by a pharma-funded house. What is he going to be able to actually do about this? Nothing. We have posts from 2020 here. Fighting against coronavirus is not yet over. Now, hantavirus emerges from China, where death again starts. Hantavirus normally infect rodents, but do not cause disease in them. Humans may become infected with hantavirus viruses through contact with rodent urine and saliva. Now, the urine is aerosolized. It could go like a rat or a mouse's urine. You could smell it in the air. If you're smelling it, you're breathing it in. It's like cat urine. It's like any urine, really. You're going to smell it, and if you're smelling it, you're breathing in particles of it. That's what scent is. So what they're saying is, oh, well, it could be aerosolized. And that is how people get it, is from aerosolization, the air. And so, again, this is another example of one of the perfect ways to shock people with the new so-called pandemic. Many of the symptoms of COVID-19 and hantavirus pulmonary syndrome do overlap. HPS begins with muscle aches, fever, headache, and fatigue. Over the course of several days, it progresses to chills, a dry, hacking cough, rapid heartbeat, and severe shortness of breath. Some people also experience nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Okay, there we go. And, okay, so we have these posts going back to 2020. Here's what it says here, that infection is usually caused by inhaling hantaviruses that have become airborne from rodent urine droppings or saliva. Now, remember in 2020, the Spanish government, alongside the United Nations, openly acknowledged that they were spraying the skies with metals in order to combat COVID, quote-unquote. What's strange about that is heavy metals cause autoimmune issues. And obviously, we have them in certain vitamins to absorb things, but in high levels, it's a big issue. And, of course, with the breathing in of these heavy metals, we've also seen rapid rates of a very interesting symptom, loss of taste and smell, which also, by the way, is one of the symptoms of hantavirus. So, again, what an interesting correlation, isn't it?
So you get the idea, right? The next set of lockdowns, possibly, or just distractions, right? Just distractions. I mean, maybe they won't do lockdowns for that, but maybe they'll do lockdowns for everything. Which includes, the uproars of the people, which includes, those that are against the government, as they say, conspiracy theorists, etc., right? Because there's a lot of people that disapprove of Donald Trump, especially this war, the war that he can't get out of. Trump's disapproval rate hits career high. War and rising costs take toll. Though tempered by the prospect of additional GOP gerrymandering of House districts in the wake of a pivotal Supreme Court decision, Democrats hope for a rout of Republicans as they approach the midterm elections. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Democrats are no different than the Republicans when it comes to this shit. Poll provides little insight of the upcoming midterm races, So like everything else, even if it shifts more towards the Democrats, it ain't going to change nothing. Nothing's going to change. It's on a downslide. And there's a timeline. Now, here's what I found interesting, though, is that more and more people are getting exposed in the Epstein files, which is just one guy, but yet this one guy has ties to Mossad, etc. Well, Bruce Springsteen, yeah, you see him hanging out with people like Barack Obama and others, that he appears to be outspoken, right? Does his music's good, not as good as Michael Jackson, but still pretty good. However, though, he's just as bad as Bono, according to this video here. They're all pedophiles, every one of them. I mean, these celebrities do some really fucking wicked ass shit. And so Bruce Springsteen's just one of many of them. Now, keep in mind that Donald Trump, launched that war, in the midst of what they were finding out, the Epstein files, right, to try to quietly get that away. He's still trying to make it quietly go away, with the so-called shooting, which we all know was staged. It's all bullshit, and to get away from those Epstein files, but they were, a lot of people were discovered in them, names blotted out, etc. So here's another one that always got away with it, just like Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, a whole bunch of them that were never named, but did come up.
While everybody was distracted by the White House Correspondents' dinner shooting at Iran, Bruce Springsteen was credibly accused of abusing dozens of young girls during his historic East Berlin concert tour in 1988. The victims claim that Springsteen, since revealed to be a close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, joined a VIP delegation to East Berlin before it came down in the late 80s. And their main interest wasn't Cold War diplomacy, it was children. But rather than reporting on the credible allegations coming out of Europe against Springsteen and a host of VIPs, the media have done everything they can to cover up the scandal, bury the allegations, and ensure the global child trafficking network, which is worth hundreds of billions of dollars per year, remains an open secret. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel and join the People's Voice Locals community, which is a red flag in itself. But when you cross-reference the emails with the confirmed dates, it becomes clear he was present in at least 2 private dinner parties in Europe. Events attended by Tom Hanks and Bono, where we now know...
there you know about them.
Specifically child meat. It's a fact. Working class hero? Sure. Nothing says man of the people like human meat canapes and Chardonnay, with Bono, Hanks and the Epstein gang on the deck of a 200-foot soup yacht in Cannes. We probably should have been tipped off by his close friendship with Barack Obama, the former president who flew $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizzas across state lines for a private party at the White House. No wonder Springsteen was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Obama, with a rogues gallery of other sexual terrorists.
Yep, kill Gates and Hanks, Diana Ross, Biden, course, Biden. Yep, 33rd degree Masons. You have to be a Mason in order to even be in there.
If you still can't see the pattern at this stage, you don't just need glasses, you need a lobotomy. The elite have been openly mocking us for years, committing their crimes in broad daylight, and daring us to say a word. Springsteen is no exception.
What's going on with that song, that Bruce Springsteen song, where he goes, hey little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go and leave you all alone? That's all I'm saying. All I say is, why am I hearing this in a Chipotle? Like, that's not an appropriate thing to hear at the dentist when they were recording it in the 70s. No one on the other side of the glass, when he was just like, is your daddy home? No one was like, lean in on the mic and he's like, Bruce?
Yeah.
Weird, man.
Yeah.
He's like, no, hear me out. I got a bad desire.
I forgot that's where it goes.
Dude, it's not good. It's everywhere. There's that Neil Diamond song. We love it. You hear it at Disneyland. Girl, you'll be a woman soon.
There are plenty more examples. How about Gary Puckett in Union Gap serenading a girl he describes as much too young, telling her she better run for her life, because his love for her is way out of line.
Yep. Maybe it's been there all along and you failed to see it.
And if you think it couldn't get any more in your face or shameless, you're dead wrong. We're living in times when the elite are committing their crimes out in the open. Just ask Mark Wahlberg, who told his church congregation about a Hollywood party he attended when he was young, which featured Barack Obama and his friend Bruce Springsteen, indulging in baby's blood in wine glasses. I remember thinking it was some kind of joke or weird art thing at first, Wahlberg said. But no one was laughing. It was treated as normal, like it was just another toast. If you still believe that adrenochrome is just some wild conspiracy theory, it's time you learned real history. Not the sanitized garbage in textbooks written by professional gatekeepers, and not the polished propaganda they push on the History Channel. Here's a declassified CIA training video from 1955, which proves government experimentation.
And furthermore, we are continuing our experimental work with hallucinogenic drugs, such as mescaline, cannabis, adrenochrome, etc.
This is the kind of history they've spent decades hiding from you. Take Bruce Springsteen's trip to East Berlin. Most people think he went there as some noble hero trying to bring the wall down. In reality, he went for the exact same reason so many other VIP elites did. East Berlin was the Ukraine of its time, a protected elite playground, a global hub for child trafficking, where the normal rules didn't apply, and the worst crimes were committed with total impunity. We're about to drop damning testimony that ties Bruce Springsteen to dozens of rapes and disappearances. The dangerous information the media is working overtime to bury.
So, like everything else, Esau's being exposed, right? And we know that they're all pedophiles, every one of them, but, they've kept a lot of things hidden, right? But yet, was it as hidden as you think it was, or maybe just failed to see it, right? Because you know how music is. You get into the melody and it sounds good, the singing's good, the band is in, the instruments are good, and maybe you fail to miss it, I mean, hey, it happens, it's a covering cast, but yet that covering cast is being removed, and it's like, now you could actually, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, that's not normal. Hey little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go and leave you? Oh, wait, it's like, wait, what are you insinuating here? Oh, I can have you now? I've got a bad desire? Oh, I'm on fire. So you get it. It was there in plain sight. That was the #1 song. I remember when that came out. I mean, I think most of us do. So things are hidden in plain sight. But now having eyes to see and ears to hear, it's like, yeah, it was there all along. But here we go, the war, right? Because the war, it's not over. Nah, it's just going to keep going on and on. Just like the war, terror, the Twin Towers being brought down and just looking for a guy in a cave that they could never find. But their ultimate goal is to have everyone chipped. And the war would just go on forever and ever, and everybody would be chipped, and the money would be on the chips. And if anybody got out of line, they just turn their chip off. Famous interview that Alex Jones did years ago with, trying to remember his name, but, he met Nick Rockefeller. And pretty much, though, kind of told you what they were up to. U.S. futures whipsaw crude oil spike higher as tensions flare up again in West Asia, taking the focus off a run of strong earnings by mega cap tech companies. As of 0800 hours Eastern Time, S&P Nasdaq 100 futures dropped 0.2% from Friday's record highs, falling as much as 0.5% just minutes earlier after Iran's Fars agency claimed 2 missiles hit American patrol boat before erasing most of the declines after the U.S. denied the ship was hit. So, like everything else, so this is causing things to go down. I'll read more into what just took place there, as Trump also announces a new operation. But here's what's happened. Everything is just stopped over there. Kuwait exports 0 barrels of oil for the first time in 35 years. Halt is due to the blockade of the strait, the country's only export route, with crude accounting for roughly 50% of GDP. So Kuwait, they're kind of stuck there, because you know where Kuwait is. It's right next to Iraq, you know, the famous invasion of Kuwait, right? You know, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, so they had to go after Saddam Hussein, which was a total setup by the CIA. Kuwait exported 0 barrels of crude oil last month, according to data from Shipping Monitor, making the first such halt since the 1991 Gulf War. You know, so like everything else, so, you know, here's what happened. Major U.S. ally hosted around 13,500 American terrorists serving as key regional logistical hub. Kuwait previously produced about 2.7 million barrels per day and exported roughly 1.85 million barrels per day, with the most shipments going to Asian markets, including China, India, and South Korea. So, pretty much though, since the closure of the strait, nada. You know, but there's a new operation to clear out the strait, as this guy goes into. Now, he has a lot of truths, but he also gives you a lot of bullshit. You just gotta, you know, kind of like when you listen to Alex Jones, etc. You know, you get a lot of truth, and sometimes you get some bullshit, but you can filter through that, you know, and you can figure out what's really going on.
Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, May the 3rd. The President of the United States of America just issued an immediate emergency military operation.
Oh, shit.
Trump has announced so-called Operation Project Freedom. This is being regarded as a unilateral U.S. Navy operation that starts immediately. You're going to see the rollout of this in just a couple of hours. This forcibly escorts, according to some reports, or relieves safe passage, according to others, all foreign ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. They have said that if this process is disrupted, and this was Donald Trump's warning to Iran, if this process is disrupted, the entire force of the United States military will come down on the Iranian lands and wipe them out.
Yeah, so
Now,
there
just
it
a few
is.
hours ago, the IRGC,
I believe Trump said something like that, though.
They ordered all of the ships out of United Arab Emirates ports. They announced initial military actions. Iran is in position right now to respond to this exact scenario that's playing out before our eyes. Now, the IRGC is prepared to attack any cargo ships. America is prepared to provide some sort of straight passage there. Yeah, sure, bro. We are right now watching probably one of the worst issues that we have ever seen. And by issues, I mean that we are seeing the United States of America forced into a decision-making process. As part of this decision-making process, the United States of America must immediately wipe out Iran, open the Strait of Hormuz, retain control over the Iranian government, and basically make total and complete change in that country. Folks, you're watching Full Spectrum Survival Live. We are here. It is Sunday evening, May the 3rd.
Yeah, so this is one of his emergency broadcasts that he
issues that we
made.
weren't able to get to on this morning's broadcast. Sometimes we just have too much happening out there in the world, and we have to look at what's happening, and we have to see, okay, well, what can we do about it? What can actually be performed by preppers and survivalists? What changes can we make? Kelly and I just went to the grocery store and spent far too many hundreds of dollars to not just up our used items in our store pantry, but to try to give another little buffer. Because right now, everything that I'm seeing, rice, flour, corn, basically everything but soybean, rice, flour, corn, fertilizer, it's all going to jump possibly 100 to 200% in the price. So the way I look at it is, if I'm not doing anything else besides offsetting the inflation that they're about to bake into the price of products that we have, well then, I've made a good decision for my family. David Jonathan says, what about my baby? Don't worry, bro, you're a survivor. Your family is here because your family is survivors. They've lived through world wars.
So,
they've lived through even
like
worse
everything else,
UAE, Saudi Arabia. no affiliation, had their millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of materials locked up in the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a policing effort by the United States to try to get these ships out. Now, in just this morning's broadcast, I told you that Donald Trump's message to Congress was a message that a new operation was coming. And in fact, on our last live show, we took a little bit of a poll of what the next operation would be called. And in that poll, my favorite was Final Destination. Somebody said Operation Freedom. And here we have it, Project Freedom. Donald Trump says this will begin Monday morning Middle Eastern time, and I'm fully aware that my representatives are having positive discussions with the country of Iran. The ship movement, he says, is meant to free up people, companies, and countries that have done nothing wrong. They're victims of circumstance. Trump says this is a humanitarian gesture on the behalf of the United States. Now, let me tell you, this is not a humanitarian gesture. This is a, we're going to let you get out before all hell breaks loose gesture.
Yes.
Trump says, I think it would go a long way in showing the goodwill on behalf of all those who have been fighting so strenuously. If in any way this humanitarian process is interfered with, that interference will unfortunately be dealt with forcefully. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We're just kind of the business sign-off that Donald Trump always seems to give. Now, immediately, we saw this go out from the Iranians. The Iranians say that no ship will be allowed to exit the Persian Gulf without permission from the Iranian armed forces. Only a fool would attempt to ignore a Iranian warning. So this really has the chance here in the next, couple of hours, couple of days, to blow up into something much, much larger. Everybody watching, if you would, down in the comments, kind of let me know your area that you're coming in from. Don't give me your city.
So you get the general idea that everything's about to resume, and just be based upon, they won't let anything in. Just kind of like Saddam would pull out of Kuwait. They want to sell it to people like, he was Saddam, like the Ayatollah Saddam Hussein. But people ain't buying it. They're fucking tired of Trump, and they're, again, Trump says U.S. will guide ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. No, it's not bullshit. It's Trump shit. President Trump dubbed the effort Project Freedom and said it would begin on Monday morning, Iran time, which already has happened, obviously. Trump said the countries the U.S. will assist are neutral and victims of circumstance, just like the other guy read. It's a humanitarian gesture on behalf of the U.S. So, like everything else, though, to be dealt with forcefully. So, here we go. Pretty much, though, just like he said, here we go. Pentagon hails 2 merchant ships safely exiting strait as Iran vows attack on U.S. Navy entering Hormuz. And so that's our time, which there's still a 6-hour difference from Eastern time over to this time, because, you got to know what your time zones are, right? So, morning's already happened over there. CENTCOM hails 2 U.S. merchant ships exiting Hormuz Strait safely in first step. Iran insists Hormuz is under its control and says it targeted and struck U.S. Navy vessel, which the Pentagon has denied. See, like everything else, though. Again, 2 missiles hit U.S. Navy vessel near strait after it ignored Iran's warnings. Oh, yes, some might have escaped, but others got caught. Fars News Agency reported that an American warship was moving in the vicinity of Jasperport on Monday with the intention of transiting through the strait in violation of maritime security protocols. The vessel reportedly disregarded multiple warnings issued by the Islamic Republic naval forces before being targeted. According to the report, the U.S. vessel suffered damage from the strikes, forcing it to abandon its course and retreat from the area. Yeah, I can see why the Pentagon don't want a missile, tell the people that. The Islamic Republic of Iran previously announced that any transit through the strait without official authorization from Iran is not permitted, and that any disregard for this warning would be met with decisive response. So, like everything else, though, it's already happened. They've already responded to those ignoring their warnings. And of course, this coming in from King Bibi, Israeli state preparing to fight with Iran and disarming Hamas. Because now he's been diagnosed with blood cancer, and so the motherfucker probably will die in the next few years, so he's got severe blood cancer. You know, so he's on his way out anyways, but I think he's going to take a lot of people with him, and I definitely think that he may be the guy in command, but even if he's not, say that the other one comes in, still the conflict's going to go on, because, you know, it never said who their leader was, it definitely told you who the king of Babylon was, that he'd be a fierce king and cruel lord, which we know is Nero 47. Israeli Prime Minister told senior army commanders that the Israeli state is preparing for confrontation with Iran and will continue efforts to dismantle Hamas. During a meeting with top Israeli officials, King Bibi said Iran would emerge from the current campaign weaker than ever, while the Israeli state would be significantly stronger. He addressed claims about the possible rapid collapse of the Iranian regime, saying there are no guarantees it would fall at the start of any conflict. However, he stressed that heavy economic pressure is creating conditions that could lead to such an outcome. Yeah, in your dreams. I don't think that they're suffering all that bad. You know, sure, you've done some damage, but they have the upper hand. But, you know, these Israelis believe that they can win a war. How Turkey's new kamikaze drones may outclass Iran's Shahid. You know, so, yeah, once you start beginning an attack on Ankara and all that, they have some advanced shit too, because remember, they're an ally of Russia and of NATO, so they have some shit. New AI-powered platforms enable coordinated swarms, precision strikes, and resistance to electronic attacks, giving Turkey a major edge in modern warfare. So, any attacks or attempts to go after Turkey will be met. Iran's Shahid drones have been used by Russia and Ukraine in recent years, and Iran's attacks on the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, and Israeli state during the latest U.S.-Israeli war against Iran this year suggests they are effective against long-range targets as well. While many Turkish armed companies, including Skydagger and Turkish Aerospace Industries, have been developing drones similar to Shahid, a prominent Turkish company called Bakya was the first to cross the finish line with 3 separate kamikaze drones. The drones K2, Seversk, and Misrak differ in speculations range and capabilities. However, though, they've got some shit too. So, well, you already know that before they used the nuke, you know, kamikazes were used against, you know, the U.S., you know, during the Okinawa offensive. And eventually, of course, nuclear weapons were used, even though Japan had already given up. But just right before that, you had a lot of kamikazes. Well, now you don't have to use actual pilots to do this anymore. They have drones that's meant for causing damage. And there's a truce breach. Heavy clashes erupt in southern Syria, but no casualties. Well, like everything else, though, the Israeli state and these proxies, you know, are all fighting for ground there, because it's all about a greater Israel project. And you could say the Syrian government is no longer the Syrian government you once knew by Bashar al-Assad, but rather terrorist group, but is now the state group. Yet you have other terrorist groups, offshoots. All terrorists run Syria. There is no stable government. And that's what they wanted, was instability. A government which they could control, such as the terrorists. That's why Hayat al-Sham rules it. Fierce fighting erupted between Syrian internal security forces and the so-called National Guard units in the western countryside of Sweden, and yet another violation of the truce. So, like everything else, though, this group said the bombardment consisted of intense gunfire and mortar rounds launched by Syrian administration troops together with armed tribal fighters stationed in Walka, Mansura, and neighboring villages. So here's what's hard to decide. You know, you got terrorists fighting terrorists, so there is no stabilization, so they all fight amongst each other. You know, which is what they want. So, you know, the Israeli state pretty much controls it, right? So, well, there's one more video here, you know, but, you know, we're seeing that we're at the end, right? The keepers of the house are trembling. So I'm going to get some scriptures before I close this out. So another term is called the keepers of the house, which is basically Mystery Babylon the Great. You know, Revelation chapter 17, verse 18, I'll start there. The woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. The keepers of the house, right? You know, so like everything else, Mystery Babylon the Great, Well, there's this division that's happening, right? He saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. You know, aka the United Nations, where the assembly is, right? But part of their alliance, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. They shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. They'll go along with it until the time. For Yahweh putteth in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. The words of Yahweh is that, is that Babylon the Great is to be judged, to be burned with fire. And they will be burned with fire, and that is where, all of them are going to come together. Verse 14, they shall make war with the Lamb shall overcome him, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. This is talking about the return of Yahweh Shai. But they that are with them are called, chosen, and faithful. That is that hopeful elect. And that's where we hope to be. So this whole place is, this whole thing is falling. And this is good news to us, but bad news to the rest of the world, that them that dwell therein, right? For the devil is coming down, having great wrath, knowing they have but a short time. And so we're in that short time now with Nero 47, Donald Trump, and just the last few hours that he has, last few minutes, if you will. So hopefully this has been edifying. Got one more here before I close this out. For that I want to say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rekakadash Wa Abab Babal. And Brakatum Jehovah Elect. And this is from Orlando. Shalom.
Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the whole elect of Israel, the Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. We give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. The Most High, the Heavenly Father, his Hebrew name is Yahweh. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah, not Abba, not Yahuwah, not Hashem, not Yahweh, Haveh, Vaveh. It's Yahweh. And his only got a son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua, not Yahusha, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos. It's Yahweh Shai. So God, give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rekakwadash. Give honor to the apostles, elder bishops, and elders of great millstone who will and teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether you accept or not. And since this salutation to all that I can believe in this truth and pushing this truth with the four winds of the earth, the entire world should like to the whole fillet. Shalom to the outwatch well listen learning. If you sister listen learning. And my Zach and Jim Messalano Camp Prophet doing come listen and lesson. In true facts, faith, and edification, of data edification, Lord which be edifying. And this is a quick hit. I saw an article and actually both articles. One of them got a video in there I want to play. Just a little quick hit. Prophecy in the news. This is copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use are used permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit educational person use tips to balance in favor of fair use. This is for educational purposes only. This is not for monetary gain. I do not own the copyright to this video. This is for educational purposes only. Lord wouldn't be edifying. And I'm tired of the lesson. The keepers are trembling as prophecy heat up. So this is, I saw this article here from MSN, and it reads, top economist Gary Shilling says a recession and a deep stock market plunge are likely by year end. So it reads, Gary Shilling is predicting a recession and a steep stock plunge by year's end. The top economist said a downturn was almost inevitable as consumer spending is likely to decline. He sees the S&P 500 dropping as much as 30% as stocks get punished for inflation. As stocks get punished for inflating valuation. So, yeah, just a little quick. I saw this. They say he's a top economist, right? Which is Ecclesiastes 12. Talk about the keepers of the house shall tremble. And then I saw this.
Tonight, President Trump issuing a new warning to Iran as officials from that country say the war is likely to resume and the rift between the U.S. and its allies appears to be growing. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena White.
More than 24 hours after President Trump told Congress that hostilities with Iran have been terminated, Iran warning renewed conflict with the United States is likely. A senior Iranian military official saying in state media that evidence shows the U.S. is not committed to any agreements or treaties. The armed forces are fully prepared for any new adventures or foolishness from the Americans. President Trump telling Congress yesterday that the war is over, bypassing a legal deadline that requires congressional approval to continue military action. But just hours after sending that letter, Trump saying the U.S. might be better off without a deal.
They better make a bid.
Hold on. Let me do this. Let me go back and pull this back up. Bear with me. Let me put it back up.
Tonight, President Trump issuing a new warning to Iran as officials from that country say the war is likely to resume and the rift between the U.S. and its allies appears to be growing. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Way.
Tonight, more than 24 hours after President Trump told Congress that hostilities with Iran have been terminated, Iran warning renewed conflict with the United States is likely. A senior Iranian military official saying in state media that evidence shows the U.S. is not committed to any agreements or treaties. The armed forces are fully prepared for any new adventures or foolishness from the Americans. President Trump telling Congress yesterday that the war is over, bypassing a legal deadline that requires congressional approval to continue military action. But just hours after sending that letter, Trump saying the U.S. might be better off without a deal.
They better make a bad deal. A deal at all, because frankly, maybe we're better off not making a deal at all.
With peace talks stalled, Trump issuing Iran this stark warning.
Do we want to go and just blast the hell out of them and finish them forever, or do we want to try and make a deal?
The U.S. naval blockade in full force and the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. The Trump administration now asking other countries to join a new international coalition to help reopen the strait. U.S. officials tell ABC News the coalition would coordinate diplomatic efforts and enforce sanctions. But that ask comes as Trump has repeatedly blasted our NATO allies for not getting directly involved in the Iran war. On Monday, the German chancellor publicly criticized the administration's handling of the war, saying the Americans clearly have no strategy and the U.S. is being humiliated by Iranian negotiators. Trump responding, ordering the Pentagon to withdraw 5,000 U.S. troops from Germany over the next 6 to 12 months. And with tonight, we're learning that the State Department has fast-tracked $8.6 billion in arms sales to partners in the Middle East, sidestepping congressional approval by invoking emergency powers. And since the Iran war began, the U.S. has already used that authority for billions more.
And Selena, on another subject here, Cuba is also responding to new threats from President Trump.
That's right, Whit. Last night, President Trump said that the U.S. would be taking over Cuba almost immediately after the war in Iran is over. And tonight, Cuba's president is firing back, saying, quote, no aggressor, no matter how powerful, will find surrender in Cuba. It comes as Cuba's economy is struggling, with many going without power and even without food, Whit. President Trump is in Florida.
So, yeah. So, saw that. So I just want to get this here. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Yeah, just a quick hit, man. I just saw that. It's Ecclesiastes 12 and 1. Remember not thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. There is no pleasure in these days, man. We ready to go. Ain't nothing but destruction. Hey, as I tell you in 2 Ezra 14 and 13, 2 Ezra 14 and 16, look how much the world should be wicked through age. Hey, everything is bad here, man. It's trash. Then we found out that we wasn't ever living anyway. Micah 2 and 10, the Lord said, hey, this place is polluted and it will destroy us, man. And that's what the Lord said in Matthew 24. Hey, if Yahweh Bashimah didn't speed the time up, because time moving quick, it'll be no flesh to be saved. Because this place is polluted, man. And the super white man has not only polluted America, Babylon the Great, but he have polluted every other place, man. I want to pull this back up with this guy. What's his name? Top economist. This devil here. So this is Ecclesiastes 12 and 2. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves. That's what happened, man. Tell you Jeremiah, the mighty men of Babylon have won a fight, and the strong men shall bow themselves. That's what it is. Zephaniah 1 and 14. The mighty man shall cry bitterly in that day, man. And the grinders cease, which is word. It's been a retail apocalypse since 2018. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. And this in this article, it's a top economist, which is the keepers of the house. You're trembling. This is what it means when they tremble, man. When you see articles like this. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, which is word, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Hey, in the Babylon the Great, hey, we're in a dark place. Remember, this is the land of the shadow of death. In Job chapter 10, I want to get this. word keeper real quick. Ecclesiastes 12. Let me see the translation reads. So this is Ecclesiastes 12 NLT and 3. Remember him before your legs, the guards of your house start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. No. Right. The Nas B20. On that day that the watchmen of the house tremble, and strong men are bent over. And strong men are bent over now, man. He's like, give them that bag and run up that Duke shoe. The grinders stop working because they are few, and those look out the windows grow dim. So you got watchmen. Okay. When the keepers of the house tremble. I wanted to see if they were going to give another wording to it. So let's go. Oh, on that day, the CSB, when the guardians of the house tremble. See, they're talking about. Hey, that's why I tell you in Zephaniah. Let's go over here. Let's get this real quick. I'm going to come back to this. Zephaniah 1. Where's that? Yeah, Zephaniah 1 and 10, it reads, this is about the stock market as well crashing. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. They crashing of the economy in America. Verse 11, how ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchant people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off. So this was coming to this place. But I want to go back and get this this word keeper here. Hey, just like the Lord set up a tower, right, for the flock. He said the men of to be in the tower. So this is the word keepers, to keep guard, observe, give heed. That's the warning. It say to keep, have charge of, to keep guard, keep watch and ward, protect, watch, watchmen, to watch for, wait for, to watch, observe, to keep, retain, treasure up, to keep within bounds, restrain, to observe, celebrate. You got to keep, protect, reserve, to be on one's guard. You got to be guarded, to keep, strong definition. Beware, preserve, heed, mark. So let's see, strong definition, to protect, observe, preserve, regard, save. So these watchmen, man. Hey, and just like you got them keepers, as I was making that point, let's go ahead to Isaiah 5. Is it Isaiah 5? Yeah, Isaiah 5:1. Now will I sing to my well-beloved, a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. The vineyard is the 12 tribes of Israel. On this side, only the remnant of them. My well-beloved have a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, which is Jerusalem, Israel. But now the vineyard is scattered, which is the people. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof. The stones of the elect men of Israel. And planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it. What's the tower for? To keep watch. Isaiah 62, 6 and 7. So yeah, just like these guys keepers, going back to this guy here, Peter Schilling, they say he's a top economist. Because you got Richard Wolff, you got Peter Schiff, right? Chris Hedges, Jeremiah Bade, Gerald Salente, what's his guy's name? I ain't seen him in a minute. Glenn Beck, right? He said he's a top economist. So here's the keeper of the house, and these words is basically him trembling. Top economist Gary Schiller says a recession and a deep stock market plunge are likely by end year. So I read let's read it again. Hey, because the Lord is turning the heat up, man. Zephaniah 1, 10 and 11, it reads, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. How ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchant people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off. So this is happening, man, real time. Anyway, just make some points on this. The Lord was edifying, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rekah Kodash, the bonus of the apostles, the elder bishop, the great millstone over well, who teach well the apostles and elders of all of Israel, ready to accept it or not. And a sincere salutation to all that can believe in this truth and pushing this truth. But the four winds of the earth, the entire world, shall not to the whole elect. Shalom to the hot watch for listening learning. If you sister listen learning. Go out to an end. So next time I say shalom.